Welcome back to Naval Action and episode 42 of A Letter to the King. If you're new to the series, A Letter to the King is my attempt to keep you appraised of what's going on as far as port battles and general biffo on the Euro PvP 1 server. If you recall last week, the Swedes had grabbed up a bunch of land. In fact, they'd snaffled this must be the wrong map, as they fell out of the alliance with Spain. There'd been the normal push and shove around Trinidad and Castries. One of the fledgling British clans, I'll probably get in trouble for calling them that, has started agitating up around this neck of the woods. And the normal chaos and mayhem around the PvP areas was going on. So this week we're right in the middle of holidays at the moment, so people have got a lot of TikTok on their hands. And there's been a hell of a lot of port battles this week, and that's been somewhat agitated early on due to the stupid alliance bug where the Americans fell out of the alliance with the Brits, and then later in the week, although I think probably to a lesser effect, the Spanish have fallen out of alliance with the French. So let's have a look at what went on. There we go, there's Sweden. They did a free port cap down here. Early doors, the Spanish decided they wanted Islamabad back, and they came in and attacked the Americans. This was a really good port battle that went terribly wrong. The Americans didn't have enough numbers in, and then one of their ships exploded right in the middle of their own fleet, nobbling 4 or 5 other ships, and it ended up being a relatively easy victory for the Spanish. Subsequently, the Spanish also defended a, what do I call it, a bit of a half-assed attempt by the Dutch to expand westwards. I don't think this port was ever really in trouble. I'm not sure the Dutch got a full fleet, if any, in. The Brits changed tack a little bit and had a go up here at St. Lucie. Now this is a 4th-rate battle. Agamemnons and the new waffles are in because they've fixed the BR on the waffles. The BR was 300, it's now 250, so there were some waffles in there. So that's excellent because it means some of them got sunk. And the sooner all those durabilities are gone, the better, as I am currently a waffle hater. Along came the Brits. Now this is a bitch of a port to get into because of course you got La Navas, which is where every man and his dog's got his PvP ship parked. So the Brits did manage to sail round to the east side, which with the wind was really good for them for coming into this port battle. And unfortunately, as they were entering, one of their own tagged the screening fleet. There was a lot of screening activity outside and pulled in probably a third of the British port battle fleet. They may have snagged a couple of the Frenchies up too, although I think there was a lot of Danes in there. Yeah, there was a lot of Danes in there. They may have snagged up a couple of the Frenchies. However, they had enough screeners in 4th rates to join. Perhaps that's where some of the waffling happened. And this battle, actually, in the first half hour, the Brits were doing really well pushing through the French lines and holding 2 circles. But as their reinforcements trickled in, and very annoyingly, the port battle still closes after, I don't know, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. So the Brits ended up being 1 or 2 ships down throughout the whole battle. I don't know now with the new mechanics why they have a closure on it. They really should just leave it open until both sides have the requisite 25 in there. However, the French slowly began to whittle down the numbers, and very much like happened at Islamabad the previous week when the Americans took it, you just got that snowball effect, and in the end the French probably sank 3/4 of the British fleet for the loss of, at best, 1/4 of their own. So the Frenchies defended that one quite well. Well, not quite well, they defended it well. The Americans had a little go at Kidd's Harbour. They struggled to get their fleet in, and the pirates pretty much retained Kidd's without firing a shot. However, the fun was to be had outside the port as everybody's brain farted and people all left to open sea. and there was 2 or 3 big engagements which pretty much went in opposite directions. In one, the pirates spanked the American Allied force, and in the other, the American Allied force spanked and captured some nice first rates off the pirates. But there was a good 2 hours of scrapping going on around there. The Brits obscurely raised hostility at Santiago, but I'm reasonably sure they didn't go in and attack that. I think that was a bit of a miscom. Actually, I think it was in response to the pirates attacking one of the British ports. It might have been Little Harbour, and it was a bit of a oi pal type of situation. The Spanish defended a whole bunch of aggravation caused around the Yucatan without much trouble. The Brits tried to have another go at Trinidad, which is their weekly sojourn. And again, this new rules of engagement thing. The Brits were quite literally 2 to 3 seconds away from entering this at the same time as the French fleet were just about to enter their battle. The screening fleet tagged the Brits, and because the circle is like bigger than the friggin' island that's been attacked, it pulled in both the British port battle fleet and the French port battle fleet, but the French port battle fleet could exit almost instantly, whereas the Brits were caught up. And in the end, the port battle itself never really happened. I think 2 got in, and the Brits just killed as many as possible. In fact, they killed everybody who couldn't escape from the screening fleet. The French, however, had better luck getting their fleet in against the British up at Castries. The British had an amazing 3 fleets of screeners. However, they were positioned just slightly off, and again, due to this enormous circle, the second of the attacking screening fleets that was tagged managed to drag in all of the remaining Brits. So a bit of a good biff occurred after that. But what it meant was that the French got their first-rate fleet in against the Brits. And this was actually quite a good battle. It was quite a close battle. The French started off, I don't think the wind was too much in their favour, but after about half an hour it was looking quite good for the French, but the Brits slowly whittled them down in the contested circle until eventually they sort of broke them where they couldn't take the contested circle anymore. And from that point on, it was going to be a defended port. I think the French lost slightly more ships than the Brits, but it was a real good battle. We were all watching it on one of the guys who was streaming it, and it was a great battle to watch. There was basically one little scrap going down in one circle where outgunned and outnumbered Brit contingent was trying to hold off the French from what could have been a decisive snag if they'd been able to take and hold that circle. Meanwhile, the main Brit force was sort of engaged in the centre circle, where they eventually got the better of the Frenchies. And again, what we're seeing is, there's probably been 30 new port battles. There's probably only been, I think, 4 won by the attacker. The wind is crucial. Screening is crucial. And once you're in, I think it was it St. Lucie? St. Lucie's got 3 big forts defending it, and it's one of the few so far I've fought in where the forts make a difference, as in they do pound the attacker. But at the same time, the Brits took 2 mortar brigs into that one, and that snagged them up, 300 points onto the totalizer. And that could have been the difference had the Brits got their full fleet in. I really think if the Brits had got their full fleet in, given the plan that Command had put in place on how we were to tackle this particular port battle, I think if it had been a 25 on 25 rather than a 16 on 25 at the start, ended up being a 23 on 25, I think, or 24 maybe right before the bell rang. I think it would have gone differently, and I actually as much as the wind is a big deciding factor, and if you don't get your full fleet in, you're in a lot of trouble very quickly, because it is a numbers game for capturing these circles. I still think this is immeasurably better than the old three towers runaway kite bullshit, or the couple of guys sneak in with boarding mods and cap a bunch of towers malarkey. I think it's a much better system. I think it needs a fair bit of tweaking still. I'd like it to run longer. I spoke about this last week. I'd like it to run for 2 hours. I'd like the points to come up slightly slower. I'd also like to see the fortifications do more. If I could dream a dream of naval action, I'd actually like every port to be over fortified, and that you have to raid the non-capital ports in order to bring the fortifications down to something more manageable. And raiding would be probably closer to the flag system, in that it didn't need a hostility raise. In fact, raiding could contribute towards hostility. That's what I'd really like to see, but let's just find out. We've not got much news about what's coming in the next patch. Is it going to be the big ship building thingo, or are they going to bring raiding in? What tweaks? I hope they fix the ROE, because the ROE is all a bit messy at the moment. So the French were booted out of Castries. Now the drama of the week happened very much around Orthodox Christmas. The Americans put up a port battle against the Danes. It was very close. I think it was the day after or the day of Orthodox Christian Christmas. And a lot of the Danes, being mostly Russians, that's their kind of primary day of celebration throughout the year. And so the Americans in the end agreed not to prosecute that battle, but they did so under the understanding, or their belief at least, that the Danes wouldn't attack them while they were out of the alliance. So that was part of their tit for tat. However, the Danes, and I'm going to cast them as the villain to earn myself a few thumbs down, responded by working with their allies to set up simultaneous attacks on the Americans in Wilmington, A's, and I think this is Little Harbour. Now, I will now maybe unearn a thumbs down from my Danish colleagues by saying the Danes did offer the American conditions where they would withdraw these attacks. But the Americans said no, fundamentally for two reasons. One, they were really pissed off about the attacks. They considered it to be three knives held at their throat while they were negotiating. And secondly, the conditions meant that the Americans, other than at the weekend, couldn't do port battles in American prime time. And that was the ball breaker for the Americans. And I have to say the rest of the deal was very good. And I think it was made with really good intentions, and I think that the Danes thought it was a good and just arrangement. However, the Americans said no, and so the three knives kicked off. Now, A's didn't really happen. I'm not really sure why it didn't really happen. The battle for Little Harbour was a fantastic battle, because it's one of those heavy rattler shallow water battles. Someone in one of the forums said it's like bumper cars in naval action. And it was a great battle, an absolute cracker. And the predominantly Swedish force was eventually defeated by the predominantly American force. The Danes, in their attempt to get into Wilmington, and I advise you to, in the forums, one of the devs has posted all the maps for Wilmington. I was going to get an image of it, actually, but I forgot into this week's Letter of the King. But attacking Wilmington, my God. Basically, if you imagine it's a peninsula, and so there's an inlet, and the three circles are in a line, and you have to sail right up the clacker of this peninsula. And if the wind isn't with you, basically you're going to get murdered, because the defender will capture the first two circles before you've really even gotten into the zone. And the third circle will just be where it becomes a pitched battle. And all the time, if they've brought mortar brigs or something, your first rates are going to be getting a slapping. However, the Danes were screened out. They never even got close to getting in. I think half the British nation turned up to assist their American colleagues, and a whole bunch of cloggies came along. And the Danes barely got out of Little River, to be honest. As I said, A's, I don't think anything happened at A's. And in, I think it's Little Harbour, there was a cracking shallow water battle, but the predominantly Swedish, and there was others in there, were turned back, and the Spanish never managed to get into A's. So for the time being, this coast remains as is, but I doubt it will for long, because the knives are drawn now. There's a great deal of ill will amongst the American nation over what they considered to be their... they held up their half of the Orthodox Christmas treaty, whereas they feel as though the Danes slipped one in their back. And I think they've already put up a port battle against the Danes here. So there'll be no sleep for the Russian sailors. They'll have to be defending at 5 o'clock, because American prime time is pretty horrible for them, and most of us are out of holidays. My lovely holidays are almost over. It's very tragic. I've had a fantastic week. I think when I get back to work in a few days and people say, what did you do for your Christmas? I'm going to tell them I went to the Caribbean, because that's where I've spent a lot of my Christmas and had great fun with you all. So thanks for that. Where will the biffo be next week? Well, it's going to be pretty much everywhere. There was the best part of I think it was 12 or 14 port battles this week, so that's pretty healthy. There's this British clan who just seem to enjoy flipping ports over here. Not flipping ports, but flipping ports for battles over here. I think they've set up another one at the very least. The Americans have responded rapidly by hitting at the Danes in their Live Oak port, although if they're anything like the Brits, they'll have about 50 billion tons of live oak in reserve by now. The pirates have had a go at the Danes on the north. I think the French have set up a battle with the cloggies down here. It's a guarantee that the British and the French will be slapping it out around the Windward Islands. That's almost the guaranteed event of the week. They're not set yet, but they bloody will be, one way or the other. And that's it. So all we saw this week as far as port exchange was concerned was the Spanish retook Islamabad from the Americans. Nobody else gained or lost anything that I'm aware of. And that's it. It's the end of Christmas, so there goes all the Christmas decorations from Naval Action. I've had a cracking week. There's been some brilliant PvP in the PvP events. I put a vid up of that earlier on. Brits versus Americans, 10 versus 11. It was great fun. There's a lot of guys now who put videos up on the Nation, in the Nation forum. If you frequent the forums, there's a port battle videos thread in there. I'm eternally grateful to the guys who put the videos up, because I really enjoy watching them. I quite often, that's my lunchtime or evening meal entertainment, rather than watching some trash pants on television. I just sit back and enjoy a Naval Action port biff. Those of you who are doing it, please, I do it myself, and so I'm not always perfect either. Please remember to try and hit the map every now and again and click over a few ships so we can get a bit of a health check. The map's crap, it doesn't let you zoom out far enough, but nonetheless. And remember to do tab every now and again, just so we can keep an eye on who's sinking and so on and so forth. But much appreciated to all who stick a video in there or stream. There must have been 100 viewers to the stream I was watching midweek there. It was an absolute cracker. It was like watching telly. Alright, that's me done for this week's Naval Action. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. I'll see you on the ocean, and I will catch you.